welcome to the studio this evening where we will be painting these beautiful radishes. Alright, as you can see, I've pre-drawn my radishes on my watercolor paper. Let me get those right on the desk. There they are. I've got my paints and my paint brushes there. I'm utilizing my Mission Gold paint. There's my color swatch card. What I want to start with here first is just getting in these nice, a nice base layer of greens here. Gonna get them really nice and light. Some lemon yellow, maybe a little bit of permanent yellow on there. Just a really light, maybe a little bit of blue mixed in there. Just a very, very light color. On here, it's just a base layer, and we're going to be adding onto the top of these. So before I get too far into this, let me tell you I'm using the brushes that I've been using for quite a while now. The quill brush that I have in my hand is my Dana Squirrel Quill brush. I'll also be using my Maritini Squirrel round brushes. You can see them in the lower right hand corner, all of the brushes that I'm using. As I said before, these are my Mission Gold class watercolor paints. These are the set of 24, just all put into pans there. The paint tin that I'm using is from Meaden Watercolor, and I've drawn this on a nice sheet of Arches watercolor paper. Okay, that brings us up to date. So, like I said, what I'm doing is I'm just putting on a nice layer of a light green just for a background color and to harmonize everything together so that when we go back and start painting the individual details on these leaves, we don't have any white spots here and there. All of the colors are going to be laid over top of the same base. They're all going to kind of meld together a little bit. All the colors are going to meld together. It's going to look very harmonious. And now I'm starting to paint in my radishes. The same thing, just a basic wash going on first. This is mostly just a light wash of permanent red. It's a great color for radishes. This permanent red, really bright, really vibrant. It reminds me a lot of the Pyrrole red from my M. Graham set of paints. There we go. There's my first layer of radish fruits, and I'm just going to switch and get a little smaller brush and bring that red out just down the roots a little bit. Something like that. One more, and there it is. Okay, and through the magic of film editing, now everything that's there has dried a little bit, and I can go back up and put some color on my leaves. Now, I don't have the leaves in here drawn exactly the way that they are on my reference photo, but they're pretty close. And all I'm doing is I'm looking to take a little bit of inspiration from that reference photo and begin to lay in some colors where they're a bit darker. Right, I'm using a little bit of sap green here. I'm using a little bit of hooker's green just to darken it up a little bit. When I need to go even a little bit darker in here, I'm going to be putting a little bit of cobalt blue in with these colors, maybe a little of ultramarine, but you'll see when I need to really darken this up, we'll drop in some of this cobalt blue, and that'll really help to darken the colors up. And so I'm just picking some leaves out from areas that definitely look like they are in an area that on my reference photo are darker than not, as I said just a moment ago. And I'm putting those on, and I'm just going to go all the way around this bundle of green leaves, and you'll see me go in and around there. Now I've got a story about radishes for you. my children and I decided we were going to put in a family garden 2 years ago. And we didn't know what to put in. We didn't know if it was going to work. We didn't know what kind of gardeners we are. Little tip for you. As it turns out, not really good gardeners. But I wanted to put something in that would grow quickly, that we'd be able to come out to the garden every day or every couple of days and take a look at it and definitely see some growth to keep me interested and the kids interested in gardening. So we planted 2 rows of radishes in our tiny little garden plot. And my son and I opened up the seed packet of radishes and looked at them and went, these are tiny. We don't need to plant these the way that they say on the instructions on the back of the pack. So we decided to double up the number of seeds per designated amount of space, whatever it was, 3 seeds every ½ inch or something like that. Well, we doubled up and put 6 seeds every ½ inch. And within a week, we had radishes so thick and so dense that they couldn't even grow in the space they were in. We tried pulling them out, and when we tried pulling them out, all of the roots were all entangled amongst each other. So we had a real nightmare as our first learning experience with home gardening. The lesson is follow the instructions on the back of the packet. We've tried it again the second year. Our second year we got chickens, and we let the chickens out one day, went in the house, and came back, and well, our garden was destroyed. The chickens had dug everything up, pecked all of the vegetables that were in there, and so we had no vegetables the second year. But this year coming up will be our 3rd year at gardening. We've already bought our radish seeds. We're going to give it another go round. We've got the chickens secured. I will let you all know how that goes at some point in the future, but where it's going to be an adventure nonetheless for us here on the farm. Okay, enough about my lack of gardening. Let's get back to action here. What I'm doing, as I said before, is just going through and putting in some of the dark areas. I'm going to do a little bit more, maybe a little lighter area, or maybe redarken the areas that I'm at now. But I'm going to skip ahead because I'm a little impetuous sometimes and go ahead and paint my radishes. And so I'm going over with a second coat of permanent red, and when I want to darken these up a little bit, I'm going to hit it with a little bit of red brown, maybe a little bit of Van Dyke brown. The hope is that the red brown or the Van Dyke brown will not dull down or darken down that radish color quite so much. Looks like I'm dipping into a little bit of rose madder here also. Looks like red, brown, and rose madder mostly. There you go. And you can see it gives me a nice, lovely dark red color. And it does kind of look like that bit I've just painted, albeit a small bit, has a bit of shadow, or it's in a bit of shadow back there. So I'm starting with that. All right, and just redarkening a little bit, trying to get my color balance right. All right, and now I can go on to my next radish. I'm skipping a radish so that I can paint all the way to the edges of this one, and I don't touch the color, and my paints don't run together. So I've just picked the radish in the middle, and same thing. Permanent red here, maybe a touch of the rose madder in here to darken down some of that fiery, bright red that permanent red is. Whoop, now up on the radish that I had painted. My color has run out a little bit. It was a little bit wetter than maybe I thought when I left it, so I'll just lift off a highlight with a thirsty brush there, and nothing lost. Right back into my current radish, and again, this is red brown, a little rose madder, perhaps a touch of Van Dyke brown to get that nice shadow around the outside of this, to make it look like this radish is nice and round. And you can see that light spot in the center of this radish really comes forward, and the dark around the outside pushes it back a little bit. It does look like there's a bit of roundness to this. And I'm just going to lift out again a little highlight area, trying to figure out where my lights and shadows are here. There we go. And I've got a nice round radish at this point. There we go. Now I need to look. I can't paint any of the other ones. I can only paint the one that I'm pointing at. Again, starting over with permanent red and rose madder, trying hard to paint within the lines, a tiny little area in there. I think I can do it. I'm sure I can do it. And there you go. And the nice thing is that a radish is a round ball. If I need to make it a little bit bigger, it's not going to bother anything. If I make it a little smaller, it's not going to bother anything. The only thing I have to watch out for maybe is that I've got a pencil line there. But as long as I'm over top of that pencil line, I can always paint that a little bigger if I need to. There we go. So I've got 3 radishes painted. After I get a little bit more shadowing on this one, I'm going to head back up to the top and start in on some of the greens again. Eventually, I'm going to start on the greens again. There we go. A little sap green, a little bit of hooker's green, and I think I said cobalt before. I just dipped into a little bit of cerulean. In this kit, cerulean is a nice strong blue. It's going to give me some really deep shadows. And I apologize, I'm a little out of focus here. My camera seems to think what you want to see is the back of my hand. I'm pretty sure that's not really what you want to see. My camera's going to come back into focus here in just a moment or two. But you can see I've got mixed on my palette still one tray that has the lighter color in it, and one tray that has a little bit darker color in it, and I can mix between those two to get any value of lighter or darker that I want to get. Here I'm painting between 2 areas that was a bit lighter, or that are, I should say, a bit lighter. So I'm going to make this area just a bit darker to differentiate it. And I should say, at the moment, I'm not worrying about putting in any drop shadows. I'm not worrying about having the pieces, the leaves exactly right, whether they need to be a little lighter or a little darker. I want to get a big mix in here of lights and darks. Yes, I want darks next to lights. Yes, I'm kind of going off of the reference photo. But what I want to do is make this look like a big piece of camouflage, really. And then I'm going to come back at the end and really do some enhancements, get some drop shadows in here, and it's going to look really nice. So here you can see, this is a little bit of a lighter area, not the lightest area. Well, maybe the reference photo might be one of the lighter areas. But the way I'm looking at it is the leaf in front of that is going to be much lighter. So the leaf that I'm painting right now has to be just a little bit darker. And then over in the middle here, quite honestly, I'm not even looking at my reference photo. I'm just filling in areas that I've drawn that are vaguely leaf-shaped, and trying to get differing colors next to each other. You can see I'm going back and forth with the cerulean blue, the sap green, cerulean blue, and hooker's green to try and get just as many different values of green in here as I can, and end up getting quite a few different values of green. You're going to see where I really want to lighten it up, I'll dip into a little bit of lemon yellow or permanent yellow deep, depending, and that will help me vary the colors even further. Okay, now I got a bunch of leaves up there. They're wet. I'm going to come down and start to paint my radishes again. Same thing as before, that nice red mixture, a little bit of rose madder, a little bit of permanent red. It's a radish, it's red. Let's get that color on there, and then we'll determine where our highlight is going to be. We'll pull that right back off, and at the same time, or almost at the same time, we're going to then put in our darks. Yes, I'm just looking at that myself and saying, well, this looked awfully dark about 5 minutes ago. It doesn't quite look as dark now, but it'll get there. I've got to watch and make the radish that I'm currently working on a little bit lighter than the one in the back. I'm going to keep lights next to darks, so unless I'm going to really darken the one behind, I can't let the one in front get quite as dark as that, but I can darken it just a little bit. And here's the highlight. Let me pull that off. And quick as that, I've got a nice little radish there. This radish is going to get a bit more color. All the radishes are going to get a bit more color on them, not just the three that we haven't touched yet. There we go. That fills out my radish. Excuse me. Full all the way out, a little bit of dark over there. Helps keep that looking nice and round. Keep a little bit of highlight on it. When that dries up, that's going to look very nice. We can move on to the next one. That little notch there is where the greens come in to the actual fruit. There we go. We can paint right up to the edge because, of course, the radish just to the left of the one I'm working on is dry. Oh yes, I forgot to paint the root on that previous one, so I'll just put that and pull it down. That's easy, easy, easy. And now back to my newest radish to paint. Drop on some shadow. Again, that's just a dark color, red-brown in this case. Red-brown is a cross between red pigment and brown pigment, exactly like it says. A little rose madder, a little bit of permanent red, just to make this look like a little round ball. And when I get my color in there, or when I get my shadow in there, then I'm going to go back and pull off a little bit of a highlight. There we go. This one looks like it. This one might even be the best one of the lot. And dry the tip of my brush off. Thirsty brush, thirsty dry brush. Pull that highlight out. Okay. Now I need to go back up to the top. Whoops. My mistake. I thought I was going back up to the top. I guess I'm going to stay down here and paint yet another radish. There we go. Now for me, I painted just a little bit on the left-hand side of the root that comes in front of this. I guess I didn't need to. The picture would look just exactly the same if it wasn't there, but I'm going to go ahead and put it there and follow the same. Little Van Dyke brown, little red brown, little rose madder, And that gets me my dark. Just going to drop it on. You see I'm not really painting this on in a full stroke. I'm using a lot of little taps and just touching the image. When you touch and pick it up, a little drop of paint will come off right in the area where you want it to be. So that's why I'm just touching it. You see the brush just constantly up and down, up and down, up and down to tap to get the paint exactly where I want. That's why I'm doing it that way. All right, that radish looks pretty good. We're going to come back and do a little bit more work on that, like I said, later. But I don't think we can paint any more radishes. Now we're going to go back up to the top and continue with our greens. There we go. It's a little bit of lemon yellow mixed in with the sap green there. And put that on, and then I believe, I'm going to drop a little bit of an ochre color in here just to alter it a little bit. There we go. And you can see the difference that just dropping in that little bit of ochre makes in that leaf. There's a lot of different shades of green in there now. And right up the other side of this leaf, I'm going to leave the other side a lot lighter. There we go. Some light. The stalk is definitely very light. And careful to try to stay in the lines there. A little bit of a different color, a different shade. And move on to the next area. There we go. I'm just gonna blend that edge just ever so slightly. This one you can really see the stalk on the underside of this leaf underneath there. That's really the only one you can see. I blend it out, and it really comes as part of that leaf. All right, and this is a darker leaf in here. Maybe this leaf is going to end up being pushed back inside this bunch of leaves a bit. It does look a little random, a little chaotic at the moment. It's kind of doing that intentionally. I think it's just going to be a little bit easier to paint the leaves in the end if I do them this way rather than trying to make them look exactly like the reference photo. I don't do a whole lot to make things look exactly like reference photos anyway. So I think this is gonna work to my benefit in the long run. And I've just got to continue until I get all of my leaves filled in, or most of all of my leaves filled in anyways. There we go. And something just happened. My camera once again has decided that my hand is more interesting than the painting that I'm painting. So it's going to be just a moment until everything comes back into focus. But I can tell you what I'm doing is I'm trying to paint the darks in where the stalks of all these leaves come down and meet the radishes themselves. I'm okay with these big lines there because I'm going to go over these again later and to knock down that bright yellowish, that first layer of green. So I'll put these darks in, and when we go over it with another layer, it'll push that dark back even further and kind of gloss over some of that stark difference in the color. It's going to look nice, I promise you. It looks a little staccato right now, but it's gonna get there. All right, I've got one more, my last little radish down here. Let's get him in there. We don't want him to be lonely. It almost looks like, if you look at it, you can almost imagine it's like you're putting the skin back on a radish, like the skin has been off the radish this whole time, and we're putting that red skin back on. That's kind of an interesting way to think about it. All right, it appears as though I overlooked painting part of my radish, which were the roots. I'll just go ahead and drop those on right now. There are only a couple of them where you can actually see the area where the root comes out exactly. So the fact that it's a slightly different color than the rest of the radish really doesn't make a difference. This radish is pushed back pretty far behind the bunch. It's pretty dark back there, so I can go ahead and paint most of this in that dark red color. Again, for this is red-brown, maybe a little Van Dyke brown, rose madder, and of course the permanent red that we're using. There it goes, and I just peek at the reference photo here. There is a little bit of a highlight on the side there, so I've just taken a little bit of that color out to make that highlight. And for me, I don't like to have a stark white highlight on everything. So I like having the base color down first, then putting a second layer on and taking away down to the base color. And it's never going to be stark white for me, and I'm okay with that. All right, we've got more. There we go. Thank you, camera. Thank you for coming back into play. Got a few more greens to take care of here. And we're about halfway done with this painting. I know it doesn't look like it, but we are about halfway done with this. We've just got to work on a few more of these. I never thought, I drew this out. I saw the reference photo. I drew the picture out. And I thought this is a radish photo. And of course, you know, the radish is the vegetable that we eat. But in reality, what I'm painting is a couple of radishes and a lot of greens. I should have called this a greens video instead of a radish video. But nevertheless, we all recognize the fruit by what we eat, not by the part that we see growing out of the ground necessarily. Come on, camera, why are you doing this to me? It's the first time in a while I think this camera has been acting like this. I don't know if it's because it's too far away from the paper or if it's too close to the paper and it's not picking up exactly what I want it to. But I'm going to keep painting right on through all of this. I know it'll snap back into focus, and there it goes right there. All right, I'm going to paint this bit a bit darker than what's next to it. And I think you'll see when I paint this darker that the leaf I just painted around is really going to pop forward. There you go, you can see it. Just looked like it moved 3 inches forward from that bunch. And right on down, we got some darks down here. Continue. Right on down, there we go. And with that, I think I've only got one other little bit of leaf to take care of. And then just like I did on the last leaf, then we're going to start putting in a whole bunch of gradients. And you'll see this whole bunch of greens really come to life. There we go. Just let me cover some of these stalks a little bit. You can see now we've got a little bit more color harmony down there. It looks a little bit more realistic. It's not supposed to look exactly realistic, but it looks much more realistic than it did. There we go. Just pulling back a little bit of that color. The color does get really nice and light, a really light green when it gets close to the actual radish itself. So I'm pulling back a little bit of that color to make sure I can preserve some of that yellow. Okay, now, whoops, maybe just a little bit more to do there. I guess with such a tilted table that I'm painting on, I have to do a little bit of extra work maybe. Okay, so I like the overall direction that I've gone here. You could stop here and say it's done and it would be a decent painting, but we can start to push a little bit here and get a painting that is really nice. So let me just do a few bits of touch-up work here, and then we're really going to start to push the darks on the radishes so that we have some dark reds, and that will be in contrast to those light highlights. And then we're going to do the same thing on the leaves. We're just going to push the boundaries a little bit, and you're going to see how much that helps. A little tiny bit of shadow down there. There we go. A little bit. All right. Yep, see, those radishes already look very nice. They look delicious. You could pull them right off of that page right now and eat them, but we're going to make them look even better. Yep, there's highlight. Yep. A little area where we need to have an adjustment. Dark there, dark there, dark, way dark back there. That's what we're going to do, and it's certainly dark back there. Leaving that light area right in the center. So let's see it. Mike will get to it. Going to get a slightly smaller brush. Rose madder. Permanent red. I'm going to mix up a little bit of a purple here. Yellow, orange. What am I mixing here? Permanent red. And I got a little cerulean blue in here. There we go. I want to see if I can get a nice purple, and maybe that will help me with the colors of getting a dark shadow on these without dulling down of a brown. So I know I had a brown on the first layer, but we're going to glaze this right over the top. I'm just looking for a color that will allow me still to put a lighter layer on, but still have an intense pop of color on it. There we go. And since that purple has quite a bit of red in it to begin with, I know it does because we just mixed it up. And then I'm going to blend that out with a little bit of permanent red. I believe I did it with permanent red. There we go. And mix those in. We've still got a nice red color, and you can see now that that's pushed way back. Let's do the same thing over here. That dark purplish color should help us. There we go. We can even push that a little darker. As I move to the outside of this radish in this picture, I want to transition to that nice permanent red color, because that is the color of the radish, and when you see it way out on the edge, that's where it's in the most light. I want you to see that bright pop of red that we love to see in radishes. All right, so I've got shadow there, and I've got shadow on both sides. Now we can work on a little bit of a shadow on this guy here. Well, he dried a little bit funny, had a little bit of a tide line there. Let me take that off first. But these radishes, I can start to put in some dark. Like I said, we're going to push it a little bit. We're going to make these as dark as we dare go without losing our redness on them. And deep shadow underneath there. As I come up to the top of this, it's more red and more red and more red, less purple, less blue. Excuse me. And you can see, there we go. I'm trying to explain to myself as I'm looking at this that dark purple color has pushed that radish back behind it and forced the radish in front of it to come forward. I actually think that accomplished that to a certain extent. Okay. And now since I can't touch a whole lot more in the red because I've got some wet colors in here, I'm going to come and do a little bit of some graded washes here in all my greens. Anywhere I've got a little convoluted fold in here, I'm going to, or anything on the left-hand side, I'm going to put a little drop shadow in there. Just some dark green color. A little cerulean, a little sap green, maybe a little hooker's green, mixed together. A dark layer of that right up next to the leaf in front, and then blend it out and let it come way down that leaf. And there you go. You can see now that leaf come to life. We're starting to put some dimension in this. It's no longer going to be just some flat leaves in here. And I'm just going to continue to go around and do this. As I look at this now and I see what leaves are a little bit lighter, those are the ones to me that should be on the top. If there's a leaf that I've painted a little bit darker, that means it's in the background a little bit. I can go ahead and really push those darks and blend out the edge. I've got some nice big leaf areas I can blend out in on a few of these. There we go, and you can see how that leaf now looks like it's come out a little bit. And I don't mean out of focus, but it's come out away from the page just a bit. I've got some more over here, really pushing the darks. Right, I've got some really dark colors in here. There we go, back into focus. Like I said, just the stuff on the left hand, put this on the left hand side to help give dimensionality. And come back and blend that out, blend it out, blend it out. The graded wash, one of the most useful washes in watercolors. I use it all the time. This is the perfect application for it. And if you can control the width of your blended wash, so much the better. It's going to help us give so much detail to this painting. All right, I do need to turn this a little bit. And again, really pushing. This is quite dark color. I'm putting it on light, but this bit is still in shadow, and just as short a blended wash, a graded wash as I can make. There we go, and you can see how now I've got a few layers deep of leaf up there. I got to put some over there, why not? All right, and just take a little bit off. So it's starting to come to life now. It's starting to be something other than a group of greens. This one looks like it needs a little bit of help here. You don't necessarily need to push it this far. You don't need to make these greens quite as dark as I did, but I'm trying to push the boundaries here. I want it to look like there's some light here, and we've got some darker, deeper cast shadows. That's why I'm doing it. I think it's starting to come out exactly like I want. I've got a few more I need to do, but I've got a lot of wet areas up there. Got to kind of be a little careful how I do it. All right. Come on, Michael, take a look. Where else can we go? Anywhere? A couple of spots here and there. Just got a little bit drawn there and there. Blend those out ever so slightly. Just a little variance in those leaves. Look at that. So much texture now. So much texture. Let's do a little bit here. Maybe there's a little cup in that leaf. Just a tiny bit of a little bit of that. Like I said, a little bit of cerulean blue, a little bit of hooker's green. I'm going to push the colors. Really dark underneath here. That big leaf just in the front of this one is really causing a dark shadow. Now you can see it. It's standing right out now. There it is. I really didn't know how using so much cerulean blue on this would affect the look of the greens, but it does. It really helps. The cerulean blue's not as overpowering as I thought it might be. I'm just looking at my reference photo. They're pointing to my reference photo, looking at it there. What do I need? Maybe a few bits and squiggles here and there. Some imperfections in the leaves, maybe. Something like that. Some more darks down at the bottom. We're closing in on the end of this one. Got a little bit more to do on the leaves. We're just about done up here. Got a little bit more to do more on the radishes. I'm totally tickled at the way the greens have turned out here. I think they look great. Just a little bit of extra work. That shadow maybe isn't in the right area. That's okay. It helps us. It really helps to define an extra leaf in there that maybe wasn't there in the original drawing. I don't know, but I do think it helps. A couple of veining lines in there. And look at all of the texture on those leaves. They look fantastic. All right, now got a bit more to tackle here. Oh, I've got a band I need to paint right across here. There's a blue rubber band holding everything together. I don't want to forget about that. Let me just drop that in. Just like that. We do need to hold these together with something more than hopes and prayers. There's my rubber band right there. Okay, now, last look to see what I need to do, and I know I need to do a little bit of fixing and darkening and whatnot. So I'm going to go back to my red in here. Nice dark red, a little purpley, and same thing we did with the greens up top. I'm going to push the darks in. There we go. Push the darks in the radishes and see where that takes us. That should help to push that radish back, back, back. All right, and blend that out. Nice graded wash. As I get closer to the edges, it's much more permanent red, much less anything else. Blend it, blend it, blend it. And I'm just tapping on here a little bit where I want to put a little extra color, a little extra dark on there, and blend away anything where I want a highlight. That looks good. That really has pushed that radish way back. As a result, now I've got to do a little bit with this radish in front. This is going to be more red than it is anything else. So I just want to bring up the red color, make it a bit more vibrant. So a lot of permanent red more than anything else. Maybe a little bit on the outside of that. I'm not sure what I'm going to get to. Doing a lot of looking and talking to myself. There we go. I knew I had it in me. Just to put a little bit more of that permanent red on. I just want to bring that color up, and a glaze on top will really help to set that off. Now it really looks vibrant. And the same thing on this one. I don't want this guy to be a little washed out. Don't need to do too much to make him look more round, but I do want to do more to make it look fresher. Like maybe it hasn't set in the grocery store for any amount of time, or it hasn't been in the refrigerator for any amount of time. So bright, so nice. There it is. All right, and we're coming up to the end. Less than a minute to go. Gonna just pull in a little highlight there I hope you enjoyed watching me paint these radishes. Let me sign that and call it good. I had a great time painting with you all this evening. I do have Instagram, Twitter, social media listed down below. I've got my website, watercolorswithmichael.com. If you care to go there, I'm trying to keep that updated with new things. That's all I've got for you tonight. We'll see you later. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.